Good afternoon, everyone, on a windy day in Kansas. Welcome to Emporia. For those of you watching live streaming and those of you here in the audience, we say welcome to our rededication ceremony for our new National Memorial to Fallen Educators. And I just want to say thank you. I've had the pleasure of serving as Executive Director of the National Teachers Hall of Fame since 2013, and we've had the effort to raise the funding, build this memorial, and make it come to the point where it is. And it wouldn't have happened without some visionaries. And I do want to pay tribute to those here at the very beginning. Justin Mallon, are you here? We pay tribute to you and your late father, John Mallon, who really envisioned this. To Keith Wallace. Keith, are you here? There's Keith. This man is so phenomenal with dreaming of the book, the monument space, and talking to the quarry in Georgia about designing granite benches with apples on them. His vision, his ideas have been wonderful. He does all the engraving for the pavers and arranges to have the names added to the memorial each year. So Keith, Justin, John, we could not have done this without you. And to Mark Runge and Rich Jensen from Emporia State University, they are always here, ready to help out in any possible way. So I just wanted to take this moment to say thank you to those people and to all of you here today who have helped us in terms of raising money, in terms of organizing, in terms of publicizing what we do. We're a small town in Kansas, but we have the heart of a nation. And we are the heart of America. We are Teacher Town, USA. So with those words, I would like to ask those of you who are able to please stand for the posting of the colors by the Emporia American Legion Post 5 Honor Guard, followed by the National Anthem by Rebecca Lauder.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming on the rocket's red glare. The bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated for those of you, and there's room on our ledge and our benches, so I apologize we didn't have an idea of this great turnout today, so please try to be comfortable if you can. It's my pleasure to introduce our host today for this ceremony, and that is Ken Weaver, who serves as the Dean of the Teachers College here in Emporia State University, and he's also the Chair of the Board of Trustees of the National Teachers Hall of Fame. Ken?
Thank you very much for coming to our rededication ceremony, an annual ceremony. 5 years ago, almost to the day, the class of 13, so the National Teachers Hall of Fame inducts 5 of the finest teachers from around the nation every year. That class in 2013 stood about halfway back in the seating, each with a shovel, and broke ground for this memorial to fallen educators. It took a year to build. Our first dedication ceremony was in 2014. Every year, we rededicate. Every year, we end with no more names. We say no more names. We repeat no more names. We pray no more names. And I would invite all of you to be of that mindset as the ceremony unfolds today. Behind the memorial is a one-room schoolhouse that was in Marion, Kansas, about 40 miles west of Emporia. It was dismantled and put back together here on the Emporia State University campus as a reminder of a very important part of Emporia State University's mission, which is teacher preparation, which has been doing since its inception in 1863 as Kansas State Normal. That one-room schoolhouse is a magnet for the community. There have been generations of children coming to visit this one-room schoolhouse, loving it. We have Kansas Teacher of the Year team coming. They visit. Master teachers come and visit. Our new inductees come and visit. People of all kinds, when they come to campus, they make their way over to the one-room schoolhouse. And it's a fun place to be. But once the memorial was constructed, it was easy to make the short walk from the one-room schoolhouse to the memorial. And it was fascinating to see the transition for everyone from the joy and the happiness of the activities and the displays in the one-room schoolhouse to the solemnity and the hollowedness of this space. And it has been that way from the time of the first dedication. So we gather today to again rededicate. And although we're adding 10 names, we also say no more names. Let's review the program so you have a kind of a sense of what's going to happen across our time this afternoon. So there are a series of dignitaries who are going to provide welcoming, who are going to provide some remarks. I will introduce them. Quite a few of them are going to lay flowers at the base of our tablet. We have two members of that class of 13, two National Teachers Hall of Fame members from the class of 2013, who are here, who will take care or do the tribute to the fallen. And during that tribute, there will be representatives of some of the families here to also present. Everyone who is enshrined in the memorial for this year will be recognized and remembered for her or his contributions in their work with children. We have a very special presentation today, a dream catcher presentation. I'm not going to say any more because it is so special. I do want to alert the Board of Trustees for the National Teachers Hall of Fame, and I'll cue you on that you will come up, and that we collectively, as a board, will accept this dream catcher, which will be an important, permanent part of the National Teachers Hall of Fame. Then we will have the placing of the wreath by the class of 2018 members, a benediction, and then our bagpiper will conclude our ceremony playing Amazing Grace. That will be the conclusion of the ceremony. Every one of you are welcome to stay as long as you want. And part of later on this afternoon, in order to mark the recognition and acknowledgement of this memorial becoming a national memorial, and to pay tribute to those who have fallen in the line of duty, the 5 new inductees who will be inducted tomorrow evening, the class of 2018, are planting 2 trees behind me, and that will occur later this afternoon. So let us begin this rededication ceremony. And to do so, I would like to bring up Allison Garrett, President of Emporia State University.
Thank you. It is my honor to welcome you to Teachertown, USA, and to the campus of Emporia State University. You know, many years ago, renowned author and educator Parker Palmer wrote a book titled The Courage to Teach. And at the time he wrote that book, I don't know that he envisioned all of the challenges that educators would face in this nation today. Every year, as Dean Weaver noted, we say no more names. And it is certainly our prayer and our hope that in the years to come, this can be a celebration of the fact that there are no more names being added to these granite memorials to the wonderful educators that we have in this nation. On behalf of Emporia State University, I want to extend our sympathy to the families, to the students, to the colleagues, and the institutions who have lost loved ones during this past year and prior years. And again, I express our hope that we have no more names in the future. Thank you.
It's my honor now to bring up Danny Giefer. Danny is the mayor of Emporia to bring greetings from the city.
Good afternoon. Before I get started, I want to tell you a little story about the last time I was out here. Carol had invited me over to the fairgrounds for a fundraiser for the Fallen Memorial. And before I knew it, I was on the back of something that somebody called a fat boy. And then I think Carol was the one that wrapped I think they called it a do-rag around. So, and then I took a long ride from there over to here, and I think that's the first time I'd ever rode a motorcycle, so it was exciting. So, and just in case I seen a motorcycle, I brought my do-rag with me. So, anyway, so thanks, Carol. On behalf of the City of Emporia, I would like to welcome everyone to the rededication of the National Memorial to Fallen Educators. It is truly an honor to have the memorial located here in Emporia, Kansas. I cannot think of a better and more appropriate place to locate the memorial than next to the National Teachers Hall of Fame on the campus of Emporia State University, which has for years been known as primarily a teacher's college. Carol approached the city in early 2013 about this idea of honoring the fallen educators. From that day, we have been a supporter and will continue to support this cause. The City of Emporia would like to thank Congressman Roger Marshall and Senator Jerry Moran for sponsoring this change and making a national memorial. Most of all, I would like to thank Carol Strickland for her vision and hard work, and especially her passion for making the National Teachers Hall of Fame a national memorial for fallen educators that what it is today. Again, it is truly an honor for this tribute to the fallen educators to be located here in Emporia, Kansas. Thank you.
We're delighted to have two elected representatives, a senator and a representative here with us to bring greetings as well. Governor Collier is unable, Governor Jeff Collier is the governor of Kansas. He is unable to be here today. In the inside cover, front cover of your program, is a letter that he wrote. He is right now attending funeral services for two fallen public servants. And we send our prayers to their families. So, Senator Jeff Longbine, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ken. I want to thank each of you for attending the rededication of the National Memorial to the Fallen Educators. As an Emporian, I firmly believe that locating this next to the National Teachers Hall of Fame on Emporia State University campus is appropriate. There is no better place to memorialize a fallen teacher, recognize a Hall of Fame teacher, or educate a young teacher than Emporia State University. There are many people who deserve credit for making this memorial possible, but Carol Strickland should be recognized for her passion, her commitment, and yes, her tenacity for making this dream a reality. Many thanks go to our federal delegation, but specifically Senator Moran, Congressman Marshall for sponsoring and moving this designation through Congress. A huge thank you to the sponsors and donors who made this possible through their generosity. With full respect to the families of the educators on this memorial should not be. There should be no greater concern or priority than the safety and security of our young students and those who passionately educate them. I urge all policymakers at the federal, state, and local level to make school safety a top priority. The future lies in those who are being educated today to lead in the years to come. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
And now Representative Mark Schreiber.
Thank you, Dean Weaver. And thank you all for being here today. And I want to offer my congratulations to the inductees to this year's class to the National Teachers Hall of Fame and all the members of all that are here this weekend to celebrate the induction. I'd like to take you back now to Monday, January 21st, 1985, in a small town west of Wichita named Goddard. It was a cold morning in the mid-teens. Jim McGee was beginning another week as principal of Goddard Junior High School. His pregnant wife and 3 children stayed at home from school that day because of illnesses. By the end of the day, Mr. McGee was dead from a gunshot fired by a 14-year-old student. 2 other educators and another student were wounded before the 14-year-old was apprehended. Jim's name is on this wall among far too many other educators who lost their lives in the line of duty. Memorials remind us of those who have passed, whether it's George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, or, as here, fallen educators such as Jim McGee. The names etched on this memorial should also inspire us. Their courage in the face of great harm never wavered as they protected their precious students and staff. If their silenced voices could once again speak, they would tell us to take a stand for what is right and never forget that courage and hope can truly change lives. New names are being added to the memorial this week. It seems like nothing changes. Let us not only remember the lives of these educators, but let the names of Jim McGee and all the others on this wall inspire us to do more, to be courageous, and never give up hope. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Representative Schreiber. I'd also like to acknowledge that we have Senator Lynn Rogers here, and we have Representative Melissa Rooker here. So thank them for being here. We now transition to the part of the rededication ceremony for national welcomes, and I'm privileged to ask Debbie Chandler from the National Education Association to come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Chandler, and I am the president of the National Council for Education Support Professionals. On behalf of the National Education Association and its 3 million members, I'd like to welcome you to this beautiful but very emotional event as we place even more names on the wall of the Fallen Educator Memorial. Several of the names being placed here today are those of education support professionals. ESP play a critical role in our classrooms, our schools, and our communities. They drive buses, they counsel kids, they maintain classrooms, they serve meals in the cafeteria, are custodians, see students and children when teachers don't have the time to see them. Bus drivers recognize children who are having a rough day, and that rough day is going to continue into the classroom. We are all partners in education. They're the life support system for education in this country. My heart is broken today. And I have struggled really hard for what to say today. But to all the family, friends, and colleagues who are here to pay tribute to your loved ones, I want to offer my sincere condolences. You see, educators are a special brand of people. They truly believe that they've answered the call to educate the future. As educators, we never imagined tragedies such as this could take our lives. We only imagine sparking the love of learning in a student, or counseling or caring for their basic needs and making sure they're met. We only imagine hope for our future. So Ruth Berg, John Carlson from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Daniel Bersham from Chaska, Minnesota, Richard Lee Prophet from Bristow, Virginia, Scott Beagle, Aaron Weiss, Chris Hickson from Florida, Jennifer Williamson from New Jersey, Glenda and Cynthia from Texas. As we hear those names, one thing is certain. When something happens to one of our educators, it happens to over 3.2 million of us. We feel it, we suffer, all mourn in our own way and with you. I can only hope that the families will find comfort in the legacy that their family members have left behind, and the memories that will stay with us forever, and the love and the hope that we all know they have left behind. Thank you.
Heather Brown, National Park Service, Tallgrass National Preserve.
It's a great honor to be standing here before you today as we honor those teaching professionals who gave their lives in the line of duty, and to those who gave so much of their lives every day to our students. This is a very special place. The National Teachers Hall of Fame honors our teaching professionals for their dedication and their positive impact on our students. It's very appropriate with the one-room schoolhouse, with the teachers played in many roles: disciplinarian, custodian, school nurse, mother, all the while watching the horizon for prairie fires and storms. Being also able to judge the distance to make sure that their students got home in a timely and safe fashion. It's a quiet space, a space for reverence, a space for reflection. It's a place of national significance, remembering the lives of our educational professionals. I can say from a personal experience, from working in Washington, D.C. on the Mall, being with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and the Korean Memorial, it's very important for those left behind to have a place to come to honor and remember and reflect upon our fallen individuals. I've seen many, many people come to the wall on an anniversary of a birthday, a wedding anniversary, just to pay tribute to their family members, and getting the rubbings from the walls. That means so much. So it's very fitting that we have this here in our special community in Emporia, Kansas. Through this national memorial, we will forever be able to remember and honor the sacrifice of those who gave their all in the line of duty, teaching and reaching the young hearts and minds of our country's future generations. The very future generations that the National Park Service System speaks of in the Organic Act. The Organic Act of 1916 speaks of preserving and protecting our nation's special places and leaving them unimpaired. Like the Organic Act, our teachers also preserve and protect our very special resources, our children. If it weren't for our teachers and all the support personnel, there wouldn't be a National Park Service, or maybe even this great country that we live in today. Everyone involved in teaching shapes the lives of our students every day, guiding our youth toward being responsible adults that lead our country in the next generation. The teaching profession is very near and dear to my heart. As both my mother and my grandmother were educators, and I too began that path towards elementary education. My Uncle John, the school janitor who was so loved by all the students, called him Uncle John, but only I knew he was really my Uncle John. Uncle John died of a heart attack while he was shoveling snow off the school sidewalks. And so it meant a lot for him that the students honored him in the ceremony at that time. So I think we can all remember a teacher, a coach, a principal, a school lunch person, anyone, a secretary, a bus driver, someone in the teaching profession that has made a profound or positive experience in our lives. And just like what we've heard already, our students see many more people before they even come to the classroom. And we all share in that responsibility to make our students as safe and as happy as possible. Unfortunately, in the world we live today, we're afraid of even hugging our students. But obviously, that student needs some kind of human connection, something they're missing. Maybe it's just attention, a little love. So we quickly give a pat on the back, a quick high five, or dare a quick hug, and off they go. Send them on their way. But our teaching professionals are so very important to our country, and dare I say, to every country in this world, every country. Let's hope that we can end the need of any more placements of names on these granite books, and I pray that no more chapters will ever need to be added. I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here today and allowing this to be a national memorial, because like I said, it's so very important for people to have a place to come to remember those that they've lost in such a tragic way. So thank you for everything that you do to support our country's most precious resources, our children. Thank you so much.
And now, Joe Badger, Senator Jerry Moran's district representative.
Good afternoon. I'm grateful for the opportunity to join you this afternoon honoring our nation's fallen educators. Our country's educators play an integral role in shaping the next generation of Americans. Educators fulfill a variety of roles by encouraging our children, instilling values, and challenging them. They understand they truly shape the world by their work, and their greatest product is an educated society. Unfortunately, their hard work and dedication to their students often goes unrecognized or underappreciated. The educators whose names are etched here served in schools across the country. As a nation, we should recognize the incredible sacrifices they made because of their dedication to improving the lives of young Americans. Senator Moran is proud to have been given the opportunity to lead the effort in Congress in partnership with Congressman Marshall to pass legislation to give this site national memorial status. This designation will make certain it continues to recognize fallen educators whose passion and commitment to their students has benefited us all. Thank you to Carol Strickland and her team at the National Teachers Hall of Fame for their ongoing efforts to recognize our educators. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to join you in honoring the educators who are remembered here. And deepest condolences to the families of these heroes who are remembered here. Thank you.
Kate Dixon, Congressman Roger Marshall's Policy Fellow.
Hi everyone, such an honor to be here today on behalf of Congressman Marshall. I know he really wishes that he could have made it, but unfortunately he's stuck in DC, hoping to vote on a farm bill later today. I got to come back to Kansas and see open highway, which I needed. So I just want to thank you all. As my mom was a teacher for nearly 20 years, I've seen the hard work and the care that's put into a profession of education. And thank you all for everything that you do. I want to thank Carol for constantly making us feel better in the office. Whenever we wanted to have a positive phone call, we know exactly who to call. Everyone else is really jealous that I get to come get Carol's hugs. But thank you most for ensuring that all of our educators, both fallen and still with us, are properly recognized for their work. Really appreciate you. Thank you for having me today.
Now I would like Deborah Corneliuson and Daryl Johnson to come forward. Deborah and Daryl are members of the National Teachers Hall of Fame and part of that class of 2013 that 5 years ago were part of the groundbreaking ceremony. We've asked them to come back and be an important part leading this part of the rededication ceremony when the names of the fallen and the memories of the fallen are presented.
Good afternoon. I have a sign in the front of my classroom that says simply, "Enter to learn, leave to serve." So I want to start by acknowledging publicly the service of these fallen folks we're honoring today. And something about this profession that goes sometimes underscored is, although I don't know any of the victims, their families, this is all deeply personal to me. Deborah and I are honored to be here today to pay a tribute to the most recent fallen educators and to add their names to the newly designated National Memorial to Fallen Educators.
When Daryl and I were inducted in June of 2013, we broke the ground for this memorial, but never imagined what it would become. Today we observe the 5th anniversary of that groundbreaking and the 4th anniversary of the original dedication of the completed memorial.
While we honor all 119 names that preceded this year's editions, we will specifically remember the 10 educators who died the past year doing what they loved, working with America's students. As we share their stories, we hope there is some comfort to the family members and friends who are left behind.
So you have a photo and brief obituary in your program for each of the 10 honorees. And then in the next few minutes, we will share their stories and then place a white rose in their memory.
On August 2nd, 2017, a natural gas explosion devastated a section of the Minnehaha Academy in Minneapolis, Minnesota, taking the lives of 2 education support professionals. Ruth Berg, a receptionist who greeted everyone with an infectious smile and a friendly personality, was known as the voice in the main phone line to the academy. She was described as generous and gentle, a hardworking mom who rarely let students pass her desk without a high five. She was only a month away from marriage and will be missed by her colleagues, students, family, and friends. We place this rose in her memory today.
In that same explosion, we lost John Carlson, known as Minnehaha's biggest cheerleader. He graduated from there in 1953 and sent his children there. He began working at the academy as a custodian in 2003, and he is remembered as the kind and gentle man who shared love and kindness to the faculty and students by handing out Dairy Queen deli bars. His wife Barbara shared this story with us and agreed that it was a fitting tribute to John. A few weeks after his service, a young man called me and told me a story that he will never forget John and his act of kindness. He was sitting on the floor on the senior hall, John's hall, and when John saw him, he asked how he was doing. The young man answered that he was just awful, sad. So John pushed his bucket over to the wall and asked what he was so sad about. The young man said that his mom had died a few months before, where John sat on the floor and listened and told him that he knew how he felt, as his dad had died a month before his graduation. He said that John sat with him and just let him talk. And later, before he returned to work, he spent time praying with him and asked if he would like a dilly bar. John always had some in the school's freezer, so that is a small piece of the wonderful man he was. He was so treasured his time spent with the kids. He so treasured his time spent with the kids and always left for work with a smile and "I'll call you." And she said, well, on August 2nd, the call never came. John's daughters, Beth and Kayla, representing the Carlson family, are with us today to place the rose to honor this man. Thank you, Beth and Kayla, for traveling to be with us today.
Daniel Buzjans was serving as a buildings and grounds worker for the Eastern Carver County School District in Chaska, Minnesota on that fateful January 8th day of this year when he was repairing a heater in the maintenance room of the domed athletic center at Chaska Middle School. He fell from an 8-foot ladder and did not recover. Employed by the district since 2015, Daniel often commented that he loved his job as the district-wide groundskeeper and ice arena attendant because he maintained a pleasant environment for the students and staff throughout the district rather than only in one building. His personality and attention to detail will be missed by the Chaska community. We place this rose today to remember Daniel.
Richard Lee Prophet loved driving his school bus for the Prince William County School in Bristow, Virginia. In fact, he bragged that he was from a family of bus drivers, with his wife Laura and his adult daughter Caitlin, both driving buses for the same district as Richard. Sadly, on February 5th of this year, Richard was struck and killed by another bus driver in the school division bus lot. One student posted her picture getting off of his bus on his condolence site and wrote, "I will miss you, Mr. Prophet. I learned more from you than from any other teacher. Rest in peace." A friend posted, "His smile and his laugh were always seen and heard. He loved to make people laugh." This rose is placed in Richard's memory.
Very recently, on May 17th, a tragic bus accident in Paramus, New Jersey, took the life of Jennifer Williamson, a beloved social studies teacher at Eastbrook Middle School. She was accompanying her students on a field trip and never imagined that she would not return home to her husband and 2 dogs that evening. Her entire 20-year teaching career was spent in the same classroom, and she loved teaching middle schoolers. It was observed that she kept her family and her students close to her heart and that she had a smile that could light up an entire room. She is remembered for her generous and loving heart as a teacher. Jennifer is memorialized with this rose.
Only one day after Jennifer passed away, the nation was shocked by a school shooting in Santa Fe, Texas, at Santa Fe High School, which took the lives of 2 substitute teachers, Glenda Ann Perkins and Cynthia Tisdale. While we are honoring them today, you will notice that their names are not engraved. Very simply, the second granite book was filled with our 8th name, and fundraising has begun for the 3rd book, where Ann's and Cynthia's names will be engraved.
Anne, as she was called, was gunned down on the morning of May 18th while she was ushering students into her gym class to safety. One of her students credited Anne with saving lives, saying, quote, "She didn't run away, she made the ultimate sacrifice." Students recounted that in her final moments, Anne put others before herself, pushing them to safety through a door for protection. Many students said they will never forget her because of her heroism. She was described as an amazing mom, wife, and adored substitute who was loved by all. This rose is placed in memory of Anne.
Cynthia Tisdale, also a substitute teacher, was a second educator lost at Santa Fe High School. Her son explained that she started substitute teaching because she loved to help children. She did it because she loved it. On that May 18th morning, she left her husband of 46 years a love note, which is now framed in their house as a reminder of this thoughtful, caring mother and grandmother. We place this rose to remember Cynthia today.
The school violence that devastated Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida this past Valentine's Day shook the country when 14 students and 3 educators lost their lives. Today we pay tribute to the 3 heroic men from Parkland who will always be remembered in these memorial books. 3 guests are here today to share their stories. Anna Fusco, president of the Florida Education Association, will help honor Scott Beagle, the beloved geography teacher who lost his life unlocking a door to help students enter the room to escape the gunman.
Good afternoon. If I may, I am the Broward Teachers Union president in Broward County, Florida, and I have a little bit of something for all 3, if that's okay. It is my really good honor to be here today to honor 3 fallen educators from Marjory Stoneman Douglas, whose ultimate sacrifice saved lives in the midst of chaos. I really wish sincerely that I didn't have to be here, that the honor of February 14th didn't take place, and that these dedicated educators were still with us. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Intelligence plus character. That is the true goal of education." In their final moments, Scott Beagle, Aaron Feiss, and Chris Hickson all taught their students one final lesson in character and stand as shining examples of educators' dedication to their students. Aaron Feiss, a football coach and a security guard, was a proud graduate of Marjory Stoneman Douglas. A family man, his wife and daughter frequently spent time at the school where he was de facto dad to hundreds of kids, offering his guidance to all. Feiss died while selflessly draped himself over students, acting as a human shield, protecting them from harm while taking the bullets himself. A former student recalling hearing the coach say, "The last play is the best play." That's exactly what he did. He made his last play the best play. Scott Beagle, a first-year social studies teacher and a cross-country coach, held his classroom door open for students fleeing from Harmony. When he went to lock it after shepherding one final student inside, he was fatally shot and just fell outside the door, his body blocking the door to his classroom, which the shooter then bypassed. Scott's mother, Linda Beagle, recalled the conversation she had with Scott. He said if he ever died in a school shooting, he did not want to be in the spotlight. Instead, he wanted the focus to be on doing something to prevent gun deaths. That is living in Broward County, Florida. Our students have taken that reign. Chris Hickson, the athletic director and wrestling coach, worked as a security specialist at the school. When the first shots were heard, this Navy veteran, who served in Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield, raced toward the gunfire in his golf cart. He was shot while trying to move kids out of the way of the shooter before reportedly trying to disarm him. A married father of 2, Chris is remembered by his best friend as someone who's always put others ahead of himself. He just loved teaching and coaching kids and watching them grow up. The character and selflessness shown by these 3 educators will always be remembered by their students and their colleagues. I am humbled by the immeasurable bravery shown by them and thankful for the countless lives saved by the selfless actions of these heroes. Thank you.
We are pleased to welcome Michael Cornell Jr., the older brother of Aaron Feiss, the well-respected and admired security guard and assistant football coach who saved many lives, many students' lives, that fateful day. He will place the rose.
You basically summed everything up. Well, one of the ways he would inspire students and even teachers, to get on about making change in their life is one thing he would say is, what are you doing today? Don't wait, Be willing to make that sacrifice, be willing to take that risk, and believe in yourself.
Chris Hickson, the wrestling coach and athletic director, ran toward the gunfire to help students seek safety, but unfortunately he did not survive the attack. We are blessed to have Chris's sister, Natalie, here from Michigan to share his story and to memorialize him today.
Hello and thank you. As a fellow educator, this is remarkable, but sadly it really just sickens me to see 130 names on here. I greatly appreciate it, but I really don't want to see a third book. But that's how our American society is. I'm not going to explain what happened at Marjory Stoneman Douglas or the actions that my brother took. Instead, I'm just going to shine a little light on my brother, on things that most of you don't know about him. I need a little assistance. Yeah, that. Okay. We developed a flag in the honor of my brother. 14 is a very crucial number in my brother's life. The number 14 represents, number one, his football number going up through high school. And that is depicted in the center there. For you NASCAR racing fans, yes, that is Tony Stewart's number. On the one side is our bear paw. That is from our alma mater, Pleasant Valley High School in Braddocksville, Pennsylvania. Chris was always the first one at school and the last one to leave. And then as you see, we have our eagle representing Marjory Stoneman Douglas. The number 14 not only was his football number, he graduated on June 14th. He was married on July 14th. He joined the Navy on August 14th. Yes. And as you look on our stone over here, he died on February 14th. So the number 14 is very near and dear to my family's heart. So we have taken this flag to the Tunnel and Towers stair climb that myself, my other brother Rick, and Chris's son Tommy, we just ran 104 flights in New York on June 3rd. And this flag was at the top of those 104 flights when we finished, to honor our brother. And yes, it was 104 flights, 37 minutes later. So, I don't want to be here in sadness. I just want to represent him the way that we know Chris and his cruel ability to have wind while wearing a dress. Yes, that is my brother's doing. That's what happens when you're the baby sister. Wrestling runs really deep in our family, and yes, I was the wrestling dummy for a very long time. Which, when Chris was at Ely, I showed up coming back from the Navy, yes. I followed in my brother's footsteps as going into the Navy as well. I'm a 6-year veteran. Just like he did, I actually signed my name on the dotted line during Desert Shield going to Desert Storm that day, as he was already in the Gulf. And my mother was like, what are you doing? "Ah, joining the Navy." And so, anyway, we represent him this way. And I just want to thank everybody who came out today. And I want to thank Carol for being the steerhead that you are and getting this all created for all of us. And thank you.
Thank you to the family members who have helped to compile this tribute today. Daryl and I are grateful for the opportunity to share the stories and honor our recent fallen educators. We are hopeful that we never have to add any more names to this memorial.
For the next part of our ceremony, I would like to ask Dr. Anthony Salvatore and Stephanie Hope Smith to come forward. And while they're coming forward, if the trustees would please come forward as well.
Distinguished guests, families of those we honor today, colleagues and friends. My name is Tony Salvatore, and I'm honored to be here today as I was when this now National Memorial to Fallen Educators was originally dedicated on June 12, 2014, which also happened to be my birthday. You and I share a special bond with this very special national monument, thanks to a lot of these people, all of these people here, and especially Carol Strickland. Dedicated to the lives and memory of our loved ones, colleagues, and friends. Simply, we are members of one family. I was the assistant principal at Sandy Hook the year before the shooting, on December 14, 2012. I knew and worked with the 6 professional educators whose names are inscribed on this monument. We were family. Sandy Hook was home. 72 hours after the shooting, I received a phone call from Stephanie Hope Smith, who I didn't know, somewhere in Minnesota. She called to ask if I could meet with her and 4 former student survivors from Red Lake Senior High School in Red Lake, Minnesota, who were planning to drive over 1,500 miles overnight to bring a dream catcher to Newtown, Connecticut, as a sign of support and healing and love between our families. Through my tears, still, I said it would be an honor to welcome them. And so continued the journey of the dream catcher that I had never heard of before, and its growing family. Several weeks later, I asked Stephanie if she knew the history of this dream catcher after I had presented it to our Board of Education in the town of Newtown. And she admitted that she didn't, but she would find out. And after meeting her only that one time, I had no doubt that she would find the history of how and why this dream catcher was created. And for that story, it is my honor to introduce Stephanie Hope Smith.
To our Minnesota friends who came so far, we should have carpooled. But I brought with me the dream catcher today, and it's not appropriate to bring it on a plane. It's to be presented in person, and what a fitting place to be here among those whose names are inscribed. The dream catcher came from Muskegon, Michigan, from a woman who's Potawatomi,
and she and her students then presented it to relatives in the Indian Ed department at Columbine. There was never an intention for it to travel or any other thing except to just share in grief and to share family. The students from Columbine, shortly after hearing about the shooting at Red Lake, chose to bring the memorial to Red Lake and to share their condolences and to share hope, because by this time they had been many years past their shooting that had happened in 1999, and this was now 2005. The students at Red Lake didn't remember who brought it. They didn't remember the names, even if it was a male or a female or who they were, but they knew that it had arrived. And then when they had heard of the shooting that had happened in Sandy Hook, those students who were then in their 20s somehow got into the school and got the Dreamcatcher and said, we're taking it to Sandy Hook. And so they did. They brought it and drove, and we tried to figure out how to get through security. And a welcoming Dr. Salvatore opened the door to allow the presentation of the Dreamcatcher in Newtown, Connecticut. It then sadly traveled to Marysville, Washington, and then from there to Townsville, South Carolina, and then most recently to Parkland, to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, where it was presented to the students. And much like you heard today, no more names. Each time I've been present when this has been passed on from community to community, this shall never travel again. And that's what's inscribed on the back of the Dreamcatcher. I'm going to ask my son, who's been coming with us. He was 8 for the first school shooting that we both attended. And this is the Dreamcatcher that's been presented. And it has great symbolicness to it. And it is not my story to tell you that part. That's private for those who have shared this. But the idea from the Parkland students is to make sure that it never traveled again. There are too many schools. There are too many victims between. They were trying to actually have this sent from South Carolina to the school shooting that was in Kentucky. And before they were able to present it is when Parkland happened. And that's when they realized that we needed to do something differently to memorialize and to share this unofficial, they've said it's the family that nobody wants to join, but the Dreamcatcher family. And so in order to stop the travel, they decided to retire it here now. And that was even before the school shooting that happened in Texas. So I would ask, just as this is a sacred space, if you would just stand and just give a moment of silence for the teachers, the students, all of those who have been engaged in school shootings. And the message that I brought from several from Red Lake is it's also a symbol of hope. The Dreamcatcher, as you see, is a big circle, and there's a web. And the idea is that those who are indigenous would hang that over their children's beds, and then at night, the bad dreams would get stuck, and only the good would travel down. And that is the hope for each of us as we share a moment to think about the good that can travel through as we share the stories of joy of those who we have loved, of those who are heroes who are no longer with us, and those who are heroes still among us. So if you would join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And you may be seated. The last part about this web that's created, the outside is willow, and if you know much about indigenous plants, it's actually used as aspirin, and so this idea that it's a healing gift. And then secondly, is the story of a spider who wanted to do something to help the community that was hurting, and the spider said, "What can I do to help?" And the idea is even a small spider could do something to help the people. And so the Dreamcatcher is going to be presented to the group, but I wanted to give back to Dr. Salvatore to be able to do the final presentation. I am not indigenous, and I apologize to my brothers and sisters who are for not being able to tell the story appropriately. And I hope that sometime you'll be able to meet with those who have this story, because each of us are part of the Dreamcatcher family, whether or not you officially received it until today. So thank you very much.
On behalf of the Dreamcatcher family, including all of you present today, and its creator, Deborah Gutowski, I proudly present to all of you, on this, the 21st day of June 2018, this very special Dreamcatcher to the custody of the National Teachers Hall of Fame Museum for safekeeping and public display in perpetuity as a symbol of sustaining hopes and dreams, as a symbol of a spiritual power that transcends our human experiences, as a symbol of physical comfort and emotional healing, and as a symbol of love that bonds us all together forever as a family, brothers and sisters alike, around the world.
So Tony's going to do he has to hand it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So as a member of the Dreamcatcher family representing all of these different places, Dr. Tony will now present it to the board.
I know you will. That's why I recommend it. We won't be seated.
Now the members of the class of 2018 will continue our rededication with the placing of the wreath. For our benediction today, Pastor Howard Cassidy Moffett, pastor of First Congregational Church here in Emporia.
The three themes of education and role modeling and sacrifice are woven throughout the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and the New Testament. But in light of the sacrifice of those who are remembered today, it's hard to find a benediction, a good word. So we're just going to pray. If you would pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we pray that the hurt of the loss that has been experienced would be dampened over time. We pray that that dampening would flow from the awareness that these gave their lives, embracing those themes of education, role modeling, and sacrifice. In particular, we pray that the sacrifice represented here would spur all of us on to investment in kids. And in particular, we pray that the sacrifice represented here would help ease the pain of loss, because we know that the impact these servants have had will grow and bear much fruit in the lives of the kids they served. And Father, in particular, we pray, no more names. In Jesus' name, amen.